Hey there. So, what I have is this Belgiosio fresh mozzarella, right? Yeah, I automatically use that accent when I say that, because, you know, I'm that guy. And you see I've just got a paper towel down. So I'm going to make some pizza later. My problem is I have a regular oven. So I'm going to set it to convection bake at 550 degrees, but if there's too much moisture in the mozzarella, then you know what happens. I wind up getting a pool of liquid in the middle of the pizza. So what I like to do is just separate. You see how it's already pre-sliced, right? Separate it out onto a paper towel. And then I'm going to let this sit for a while. You know, I've tried doing this with a strainer, and it doesn't work as well. It doesn't really drain, but the paper actually helps absorb a lot of the moisture. You see it's really not moist, but there is some moisture in there. And now I'm going to cover it with a paper towel, and then in a few hours you're going to see that paper towel is going to be, pretty wet, and then I'll change out the paper. So this way, when I put these slices on the pizza later, you're going to see the end result is I'm not going to have that big pool of liquid in the middle. And that might also have to do with the fact that I'm using 550 degrees with convection baking. But again, I'm not getting those super high temperatures that a regular pizza oven gets. So it's still going to take me about almost 10 minutes to bake this pizza, as opposed to, some of those other pizza ovens where a minute and a half and you're done, okay? But I think I'm putting together a pretty good product. Okay, so here's what we've got. We've got about 10 ounces of dough. Now that's gonna rise a little bit, and we'll see it risen later. I just have it under a damp towel. There's my sauce. Now, a lot of people use the raw or uncooked tomato. I think my sauce needs a little more character. These are San Marzano canned tomatoes. And I put a tiny bit of salt and some herbs, and I just cook it for just under an hour with some garlic also. So it has a nice complex flavor. I'm going to use some dried oregano on that pizza, and of course some fresh basil. And you'll see how it all comes together. And I'm going to take you through it step by step. Okay, so this has been sitting here for, I don't know, an hour or so. See how the top's wet? Watch this when I flip it over. Right? Look at the bottom, how much moisture I pulled out of that cheese. So what I'm going to do now is put on a new paper towel and suck out more of that moisture, so that when it's pizza time, I'm not going to have a pool of liquid on top of that pizza. Okay, so I just want to show you, it's not time yet, but I want to show you the change in that dough. That's the 10 ounces of dough that's going to turn into my nice homemade Neapolitan pizza. Okay, let's try this, right? So there's my dough. And what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to sprinkle some flour around. I'll put some on top too, why not? Okay? First thing I want to do is detach it from the countertop. Right? So I get a little bit of flour on my pastry cutter. I've detached it. Now I want to try to pick it up very carefully. Okay? I'm just going to put it over there. Okay, so now I've put it on a floured surface. Okay? I don't want to handle it too much. And what I want to do now is press out my crust. Okay? Now I'd like to get rid of some of that flour. I don't want the flour on, too much flour on the dough. When I pop it in the oven, I don't want that flour to burn. So I'm just gonna try to stretch it a little bit. Right? Get that out of the way. And you see it's starting to take shape. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put it on my peel. Now, you see my peel has semolina on it. Right? I just want to make it rounder looking. Okay, but you can see how I'm going to have a nice crust. Alrighty. So here's my sauce. And as I said, I cooked my sauce. It's not a raw sauce. I use San Marzano tomatoes because I know that it's a consistent product. So, you know, if I want this to always taste pretty much the same, there's no variation. I mean, look, of course, if you open up 2 cans of San Marzano tomatoes, you might have some variation, but it's a very consistent product. That's what I'm saying. And, you know, I would like to be able to repeat this process over and over again with very close results. Okay, you see how nice, I've got some nice chunk of tomato on there. Isn't that beautiful? A little bit more. All right, that's it. Now that's going in the oven for a couple of minutes until my crust rises, and then we're going to put the cheese on. Look at how nice it has risen. Isn't that beautiful? And now I'm going to hit it with a little bit of oregano, right? Just a little bit, right? A little bit of oregano. And now the cheese, right? That I have made sure I've soaked out as much, leached it out. I've leached out the water. Was that the proper term for that? I've tried to leach out the water. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Cool. And now, because it's margarita, a little bit of fresh basil. Yeah, you don't have to put the basil. And I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on the basil. Beautiful. And now that goes in. To give you an idea of what's happening. You see how the cheese is melting? I don't want it to burn. I just want it to bubble up and blend and melt. That's it. All right. There it is. Now, notice how the crust is nice and high. The cheese is melted but not burnt. And now we do a couple of final touches. You ready? I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil and just brush it on the outside there. Just on the outside crust. Just a little bit. Okay. That looks nice. And a little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano on top. Okay. And now I'm going to let it rest for a few minutes, and then I'm going to cut it. Then we're going to explore the crust. Alrighty. So now here we go, we're going to cut it. Look at that, how nice and airy that crust is. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Right? It's beautiful. Look how nice and airy that crust is. All right, so this is a work in progress. You know, I'm going to continue to improve, but I think this came out pretty nice.